Good evening or good night from the metropolitan region of Manila in the Philippines, Southeastern Asia. Finland will hold its parliamentary elections this Sunday on April the 14th, 2019. And according to the latest opinion poll, it will be a tight battle, especially for the second place. The National Conservative, Populist, Eurosceptic, largely anti-immigration, and especially notably anti-Islam, but originally centrist and agrarian True Finns, according to the latest public opinion poll, are placed narrowly in second place with 16.3% of the vote. The main opposition party, Social Democrats, is still slightly in the lead with 19%. The socially liberal, pro-European, largely pro-immigration, but economically more conservative National Coalition is in third place with 15.9%. The current ruling coalition's main political party of the outgoing Prime Minister, Mr. Juha Sipilä, is in fourth place with 14.5%, followed by the Greens with 12.2%, the left-wing alliance of former communists and left-wing socialists with 8.7%, and the Swedish People's Party with 4.9%, the Christian Democrats with 4.3%, the Blue Future, a breakaway party from the True Finns, with 0.8%, and the other parties and groups with 3.4%. Because Finland is a parliamentary republic, the executive power is vested mostly in the parliament, with the prime minister as its leader. The Finnish president is mostly a ceremonial head of state, especially in the domestic affairs, but he or she still prepares and executes the nation's foreign policy in cooperation with the government. So after the elections, whatever the result is, the prime minister will formally tender the resignation of his cabinet, something that Prime Minister Juha Sipilä did already on March the 8th, following the failure of his government to persuade a majority of the members of parliament to pass a wide-ranging administrative, social, welfare and health reform that would have transformed Finland's 19 continental provinces into largely self-governing entities with directly elected legislatures, and then would have transferred from the national level to the provincial and regional levels the power to decide within certain legislative limits the contents of and organization of the social welfare and health regions. But this reform then failed and will have to be tackled in some way or then shelved by the next parliament. So anyway, after the elections, some maybe 8 or 9 days later, the newly elected parliament will assemble, will elect the parliamentary speaker and the 2 deputy parliamentary speakers, and usually the parliamentary speaker is then charged with the task of forming a new government or of leading the government formation negotiations. And then once the negotiations have proceeded to the point where it's clear who the next prime minister will be, usually but not necessarily always the largest party's leader, then the speaker will inform the president of that and result, and the president will formally nominate the prime minister candidate whom the parliament must confirm by an absolute majority of the votes given. Should this maneuver succeed, the prime minister designate can then proceed to form a new government. And once he or she has prepared a list of ministers, the prime minister designate will present it to the minister, to the president, who will then probably either on the same day or the following day appoint the government formally. Then the government must give its legislative program to the parliament and get a vote of confidence to become fully operational. Theoretically, at any point, the parliament can withdraw its confidence by voting against the government and by a simple majority force it to resign, although in that case, the prime minister could, of course, ask the president to call early elections, citing the parliamentary vote of no confidence as the main reason. So Finland's election topics, climate change, welfare, aging, by the Associated Press, posted on April the 13th, 2019. Finns will be voting Sunday to fill the country's 200-seat Eduskunta parliament after a campaign that sought debates over the country's generous welfare model, its rapidly aging population, and how far to go to fight climate change. Some 4.5 million people out of 5.5 million are eligible to vote on Sunday and will be choosing between 19 political parties and movements. Early voting is popular. Over 1.5 million people, or 36% of eligible voters, had cast their ballots in advance by the April the 9th deadline. The results of that vote will be published as soon as the polls have closed at 8 p.m. local time, and fuller preliminary results are expected. It's a recent poll, but it would still need to find coalition partners if it ended up trying to form the next government. Led by former finance minister Mr. Antti Rinne, the Social Democrats plan to raise taxes and increase spending to preserve a welfare system that is under huge strain, already demographically, because Finland is aging rapidly and the Finnish population growth has almost stopped. Other key parties, including the Populist Finns Party, or True Finns Party, led by Mr. Jussi Halla-aho, famous for his controversial anti-Islam and anti-immigrant social media postings, and the National Coalition Party, led by the outgoing government's finance minister, Mr. Petteri Orpo. They are trailed by the Centre Party of the outgoing Prime Minister, Mr. Juha Sipilä, and the Greens, who have strong urban support and back moves to fight climate change. Finland's outgoing three-party centre-right coalition, led by Prime Minister Juha Sipilä of the Centre Party, pushed through an austerity package that has helped Finland to return to growth and improve public finances after a 3-year recession. Tackling climate change is a priority in this Nordic country, with 1/3 of its territory above the Arctic Circle. Lawmakers last month voted to completely phase out burning coal by 2029. There have been calls for other actions to fight global warming, such as boosting the number of electric vehicles, cutting meat consumption through taxes, or switching to more vegetarian food in public places like schools. The Populist Finns Party, meanwhile, has broadened its appeal to those who reject such sacrifices in the name of climate change. Finnish voters have also been debating how best to preserve the country's health and social system, which for years has topped global quality of life and happiness rankings and created a world-renowned education system. Finland will take over the rotating 6-month presidency of the European Union on July the 1st, by which date, hopefully, the new coalition government will already have been appointed and confirmed by Parliament.